My sister-in-law demanded I give up my beach house reservation for her family. I changed the locks instead. Let me explain how we got here, because this wasn't just about a vacation rental. This was about 15 years of boundaries being trampled and me finally learning to say no. When my brother married Veronica, she seemed charming. Sweet smile, polite manners, the kind of person who brought homemade cookies to family dinners. Then they had kids and something shifted. Suddenly, every family gathering became about her needs, her schedule, her children's comfort. My parents enabled it completely. If Veronica wanted Christmas moved to accommodate her in-laws, we moved Christmas. If her kids needed the quiet guest room, whoever was staying there got bumped to the couch. I watched this pattern for over a decade, staying quiet to keep the peace. Then last year, I inherited my grandfather's beach cottage. He'd left it specifically to me in his will with a handwritten note saying I'd always appreciated it most. It needed work, so I spent 6 months and $40,000 renovating it myself, learning to tile and paint and fix plumbing. Every weekend driving 3 hours each way, every vacation day spent sanding floors. It became my sanctuary. This summer, I blocked off the first 2 weeks of August for myself. I'd planned it for months, requested the time off from work, and told everyone in the family I'd be unreachable. I needed this. My job as a middle school counselor had been brutal, endless crisis intervention with zero support. I was burned out completely. 3 days before I was supposed to leave, Veronica called. Her usual vacation rental had fallen through and she needed somewhere to take the kids. Could I just give her my reservation? She'd make it up to me. I politely declined, explaining I'd been planning this for months. She laughed like I was joking. When I didn't budge, her voice turned cold. Family helps family, she said. What kind of aunt prioritizes herself over her nieces and nephews? I held firm. She hung up and immediately called my mother, who called me in tears. How could I be so selfish? Those poor children deserved a beach vacation. Couldn't I reschedule? My brother sent a long text about how stressed Veronica was. The family group chat exploded with messages about my selfishness. That night, Veronica posted on social media about terrible family members who abandoned children in need. She didn't name me, but everyone knew. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I drove to the beach house that weekend just to clear my head. When I arrived, Veronica's van was in the driveway. She'd somehow gotten a key from my parents, who still had my spare from the renovation. Her kids' toys were scattered across my newly refinished deck. She was inside making lunch in my kitchen, acting like she owned the place. "Oh good, you're here," she said casually. "Can you grab more towels from town? We're running low." Something inside me snapped. I'd spent 15 years swallowing my anger, being the accommodating one, letting her steamroll every boundary. Not anymore. I called a locksmith right there. Changed every lock while she stood screaming about how I was traumatizing her children. When my brother arrived an hour later, threatening to call the police, I showed him the deed with my name on it. Legally, they were trespassing. They left, but not quietly. Veronica called me every name imaginable. My brother vowed I'd never see his kids again. My mother sobbed about our family being destroyed. But here's what nobody knew. While changing those locks, I found something hidden in the crawl space. A metal lockbox containing my grandfather's journals from the last 5 years of his life. Page after page detailing family dynamics, describing why he'd left the house to me alone, and 3 sealed envelopes. One had my brother's name, another had my mother's. The third was addressed to Patricia Wells with a P.O. box 200 miles from here. My grandfather had been meticulous, a retired lawyer who documented everything. Whatever was in these envelopes, he'd intended someone to find them. I sat on the porch as the sun set, 3 sealed envelopes in my lap, and realized this beach house battle was about to crack open secrets my family had buried for decades. The journals were dated. I started with the oldest one, 5 years back, right around the time Grandpa had his first stroke. His handwriting was still strong then. Precise lawyer script in blue fountain pen. August 14th. Watch dinner tonight. Counted how many times my son interrupted his daughter to let Veronica speak. 17 times in 1 hour. She's learned to go quiet. Used to be such a bright girl, always asking questions. Now she just nods and smiles. I remembered that dinner. I'd brought a new boyfriend, someone I'd been excited about. Veronica had monopolized the entire conversation talking about potty training. By dessert, he looked ready to bolt. We broke up 2 weeks later. September 3rd. Called my son to discuss the beach house. Asked if he'd be interested in it when I pass. He said Veronica thinks it should be sold and split between them and their sister. I haven't even died yet, and she's already dividing my assets. October 12th. Lunch with my daughter. She cried about how lonely she is. Her husband left last year, but she hasn't told the family because Veronica turns everything into a production. She can't even grieve her own marriage without it becoming about someone else's feelings. My mother, divorced. I'd had no idea. She'd kept showing up to family events alone, making excuses about dad working late. We'd all just accepted it because Veronica was always having some crisis that needed attention. I flipped ahead, my hands shaking. January 28th, my granddaughter turns 10 today. Called to wish her happy birthday. Veronica answered, said the party was family only. I'm her grandfather. Apparently family now means whoever Veronica approves of. March 15th, revised my will today. Thompson thought I was being harsh, but I explained the pattern I've observed. Everything goes to my granddaughter. The beach house, the investments, all of it. She's the only one who hasn't been corrupted by this toxic dynamic. She deserves a sanctuary. Thompson was his longtime attorney. I'd met him at the funeral, a kind man in his 70s who'd squeezed my hand and said Grandpa had talked about me constantly. April 2nd, Veronica called asking to borrow $15,000 for a kitchen renovation. My son makes $180,000 a year. When I asked why they didn't have savings, she got defensive, said family is supposed to help each other. I said no. She hasn't called since. May 30th, stroke number 2 hit today. Doctors say I'm lucky to be alive. Thompson visited the hospital, brought the lockbox I'd prepared, told him to hide it in the beach house crawl space. If I die and my granddaughter gets the house, she'll find it eventually. She's thorough like that. Always was. The entry ended there. 3 months later, he was gone. I opened the journal from his final year. The handwriting was shakier now, words slanting unevenly across the page. January 9th. My son visited today. Barely spoke to me. Spent the whole time on his phone texting Veronica about whether I seemed lucid enough to change my will. I could see his screen reflected in the window. They're worried I left everything to charity. February 14th. Patricia called. First time in 40 years. She'd heard about my health. Asked if I'd told the family about her yet. I said no. I'm a coward who's kept her secret all this time. She said it's not too late. I told her I'd think about it. Patricia Wells, the name on the third envelope. March 8th. Hired a private investigator to update me on Patricia's life. She's done well for herself. Opened a bakery in Portland. Never married. No kids. The investigator asked why I wanted to find her if I wasn't planning contact. I didn't have a good answer. April 23rd. Thompson thinks I should tell them before I die. Give everyone a chance to process. But I've kept this secret for 4 decades. What's a few more months? My granddaughter will handle it better than my son anyway. She has my sense of justice. May 17th. Final stroke warning today. Doctor says the next one will likely kill me. Wrote 3 letters tonight. One for my son explaining why he doesn't get the house. One for my daughter apologizing for enabling her loneliness. One for Patricia with information she deserves to have. May 18th. Thompson took the letters. Made him promise not to open them himself. Just seal them in the lockbox with the journals. My granddaughter is smart. She'll figure it out. That was the last entry. He died 6 days later. I sat on the porch until midnight, rereading passages, trying to piece together what Patricia Wells had to do with our family. The name was familiar somehow, hovering at the edge of memory. Then I remembered. When I was 8, maybe 9, I'd found an old photograph tucked in one of Grandpa's law books. A young woman with dark curly hair standing on this very beach. I'd asked him who she was. He'd gone pale, taken the photo, and said nobody important. Then he'd driven me home early and didn't speak the whole way. I'd forgotten about it for 20 years. Until now. At 1 a.m., I opened my mother's envelope. My hands shook so badly I almost tore it. Dear Margaret, by the time you read this, I'll be gone so I can finally be honest with you. You've spent your entire adult life making yourself small to avoid conflict, and I watched you do it. I should have said something. Should have pulled you aside and told you that your divorce wasn't something to hide. That your happiness mattered more than keeping peace. But I was a coward. I kept my own secrets and let you keep yours. You've been lonely for 3 years now. Not 1. I knew about Richard leaving long before you told anyone. I saw the way you'd show up to family dinners with that forced smile, changing the subject whenever anyone asked about him. I saw how Veronica's constant drama gave you the perfect cover to avoid talking about your own pain. I'm leaving the beach house to your daughter because she's the only one who hasn't learned to disappear. She's the only one who might have the courage to live authentically. But I'm writing to you because I need you to know something. You don't have to keep shrinking. You don't have to let Veronica run your life. You don't have to smile and nod while your own children forget you exist. You're 56 years old. You could have 20, 30 good years left. Don't waste them being quiet. I loved you. I'm sorry I didn't show it better. Dad? I read it 3 times. Then I called my mother. It was 1:30 in the morning, but I didn't care. She answered on the 5th ring, voice thick with sleep. Hello? When were you going to tell me about Dad? I asked. Silence. Then, what? Richard, your ex-husband. My father who apparently left 3 years ago. Not last year, like you finally admitted. More silence. I could hear her breathing, uneven and shallow. How did you know? She whispered finally. Grandpa wrote you a letter. I found it tonight, along with his journals. He knew, Mom. He knew everything, and you never told him how bad it had gotten. She started crying. Not the delicate tears she used at family gatherings. Huge, gulping sobs that sounded like they were tearing her apart. I couldn't, she managed between breaths. Every time I tried to talk about it, Veronica would have some emergency. One of the kids would be sick, or she'd be fighting with your brother, or she'd need help planning something. There was never room for my problems. So you just swallowed it. For 3 years. I swallowed it for longer than that, she said, her voice steadying. Your father was having an affair for 5 years before he left. I knew about it. Everyone at his office knew about it. But I couldn't tell you or your brother because what would people think? What would it do to family dinners? I closed my eyes. Mom. And after he left, it got easier to just pretend he was busy, working late, traveling. Because if I admitted he was gone, I'd have to admit I'd wasted 32 years on a man who'd checked out of our marriage before you even graduated high school. Grandpa wanted you to stop hiding. Your grandfather kept his own secrets, she said, and there was an edge to her voice I'd never heard before. He's not exactly one to talk about living authentically. What secrets? She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. If you found the journals, you found the 3rd envelope, the one for Patricia Wells. Who is she? Ask your grandfather. Oh wait, you can't. He took that truth to his grave and left us to clean up the mess. Mom, I need to go, she said. It's late. We'll talk later. She hung up before I could respond. I looked at the remaining 2 envelopes. My brother's name, Patricia Wells. I chose my brother's next, ripped it open before I could change my mind. Dear Eric, I'm leaving the beach house to your sister because you don't deserve it. That's the simple truth. You've become a man I don't recognize, and I blame myself for not stopping it sooner. When you married Veronica, I thought she was good for you. Organized, social, the kind of wife who'd plan nice parties and keep you on track. Then I watched what she actually did. I watched her isolate you from your friends. I watched her monopolize every family gathering. I watched her train you to put her wants above everyone else's needs, including your own children's. Do you even know your daughters? Their actual personalities, not the performed versions Veronica orchestrates for social media? Do you know what they're afraid of? What they dream about? I spent 5 years documenting the patterns I observed. The way Veronica would manufacture crises to control situations. The way you'd immediately abandon your own mother or sister the second she called. The way your entire family orbits around her emotional state. You've become her enabler. And I've watched your sister suffer for it. She spent $40,000 of her own money renovating my beach house. She drove 6 hours round trip every weekend for 6 months. She sanded every floor, painted every wall, fixed every pipe. She did this while working a job that's destroying her mental health, while dealing with your wife's constant demands for her time and attention. And your first response when she wanted 2 weeks to herself was to try to guilt her into giving it away. I'm leaving her the house because she's the only person in this family who understands the value of sanctuary, the only one who hasn't learned to steamroll other people's boundaries. I'm also leaving her this letter because I want her to know she's not crazy. The pattern she's been experiencing is real. It's documented. And it stops now. You have a choice, son. You can wake up and see what your marriage has become. You can start putting your daughters first instead of managing your wife's feelings. You can rebuild relationships with people you've abandoned, or you can keep living the way you are and wonder why your sister wants nothing to do with you. I know which one I think you'll choose. But I hope I'm wrong. Dad, I read it twice. Then I texted my brother. Found Grandpa's letters. Need to talk. Call me. He responded immediately, which told me he wasn't sleeping either. What letters? The ones he left in the beach house explaining why I got it and you didn't. Along with 5 years of journals documenting everything. Call me. My phone rang within seconds. What the hell are you talking about? His voice was tight with anger. Grandpa kept journals, I said calmly. 5 years worth. Documenting family dynamics. How Veronica acts. How you enable her. How mom's been hiding her divorce. All of it. That's insane. He would never. He died 6 days after writing your letter. Thompson sealed everything in a lockbox and hid it in the crawl space. I found it tonight when I changed the locks. Silent. I could hear him breathing. What did his letter say? He asked finally. That you don't deserve the beach house. That you've become someone he doesn't recognize. That you've abandoned your own family to manage Veronica's emotional state. That's bullshit. He documented it, Eric. Dates, times, specific conversations, like when Veronica asked him for $15,000 for a kitchen renovation and you make $180,000 a year, but somehow don't have savings. More silence. Or when you interrupted me 17 times in 1 hour at dinner to let Veronica talk. Or when Veronica told him your daughter's birthday party was family only and he wasn't invited even though he's her grandfather. He wrote all that down. Every word. 5 years of it. Want me to read you more? I could hear Veronica in the background, her voice shrill. What's she saying? Let me talk to her. Not now, he told her. Eric, I deserve to know what lies she's spreading. I said not now. The background went quiet. I'd never heard him snap at her like that. What else did he write? His voice was different now. Smaller. A lot. But here's what matters. He wrote that you have a choice. Wake up and see what's happening, or keep living in denial. He said he knew which one you'd choose, but he hoped he was wrong. I love my wife, he said, but he sounded uncertain. I'm sure you do. But do you like who you've become since you married her? The question hung there. I could hear him breathing, could almost see him sitting in his expensive house, surrounded by Veronica's perfectly curated life. I need to see those journals, he said finally. No. What? They're mine. Grandpa left them for me, along with the house, the investments, everything, because I'm the only one who hasn't been corrupted by all this. You can't just... I can. I have. And unless you want me to show these journals to Veronica and let her see exactly what Grandpa thought of her, you'll back off about the beach house and stop guilting me about spending time with your kids. It was a low blow. I knew it, but I was tired of being the accommodating one. You wouldn't, he said. Try me. I just changed the locks on my own house while she screamed at me, I'm done playing nice. He was quiet for a long moment. What do you want? I want you to think about what Grandpa wrote. Really think about it. Look at your life honestly instead of just reacting. And then we'll talk, but not tonight. I have one more letter to read. I hung up before he could respond. The third envelope felt heavier than the others. Patricia Wells. A name that meant nothing and everything. I opened it carefully, preserving the seal like it mattered. Dear Patricia, I'm a coward. I've been a coward for 43 years, and I'm going to die one. But I need you to know the truth, even if I'm not brave enough to tell you myself. I loved you. I loved you when we were both 22 and working at the DA's office. I loved you when we'd spend lunch breaks on that beach, talking about the cases we'd try someday. I loved you when you told me you were pregnant, and I was terrified. Because my father had already picked out my future wife, had already planned my partnership at his firm, had already mapped out my entire life. Your pregnancy didn't fit into those plans. So I did what weak men do. I convinced you to tell everyone the baby was from a brief relationship that didn't work out. I helped you arrange the adoption. I held your hand in the hospital and told you it was for the best. Then I married Margaret like my father wanted and pretended you'd never existed. I told myself I was doing the right thing, that the baby deserved a stable family, that you deserved a husband who could marry you openly, that I couldn't disappoint my father. Every excuse a coward tells himself. You moved away after the adoption. I heard you went to Portland, started a new life. I thought about calling you 1,000 times over the years. Never did. Then 3 months ago, I hired a private investigator. Not to contact you, just to know you were okay. You opened a bakery. Never married. Never had other children. And I realized what I'd taken from you. The family you might have had. The life we might have built. All of it sacrificed because I was too weak to stand up to my father. The baby was a girl. The adoption agency was Mercy Children's Services in Portland. The parents' names were David and Helen Morrison. That's all I know. All I allowed myself to know. If you want to find her, you can. If you want nothing to do with any of this, I understand. I'm leaving this letter with my other secrets, hidden where only someone who cares about truth will find it. Maybe someday it'll reach you. Maybe it won't. Either way, I need you to know I'm sorry. I loved you. I was a coward. You deserved so much better. Richard? I read it 3 times, my hand shaking. Richard, not Grandpa. My grandfather's first name was Richard. He'd gotten a woman pregnant, convinced her to give the baby up for adoption, then married my grandmother and lived 43 years pretending it never happened. I had an aunt somewhere. A woman roughly my mother's age who'd been adopted because my grandfather was too scared to disappoint his father. The P.O. box was in Portland, where Patricia had her bakery. I sat on the porch until sunrise, the letter in my lap, trying to process what this meant. My phone buzzed around 6 a.m. A text from my mother. I know what the third letter says. Your grandfather told me about Patricia before he died. Made me promise not to tell anyone until you found the letters. I've kept his secret long enough. We should talk. I called her immediately. She answered on the first ring. I'm sorry about last night. I shouldn't have hung up on you. You knew about Patricia. Not until 3 months before he died. He had another stroke scare and thought it was the end. Called me to his house and told me everything. About the affair, the baby, the adoption, about spending 40 years lying to everyone. Why didn't you tell me? Because it wasn't my secret to tell. And because he made me promise to let you find it yourself. Said you'd handle it better than anyone else in the family. I watched the sun come up over the ocean. Did Grandma know? I don't think so. He said he'd carried it alone all those years. The guilt almost destroyed him. What do we do now? Mom was quiet for a moment. What do you want to do? I want to find Patricia. Give her the letter. Let her decide if she wants to know about us. She might not want anything to do with this family. Can you blame her? No, Mom said softly. I really can't. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to each other breathe across phone lines. I'm sorry, she said finally, for everything with Veronica, for letting her take over, for not protecting you better. It's not your fault. It is, though. I saw what was happening and I just went quiet, like I always do. Your grandfather called me out on it in his letter, and he was right. His letter said you could still change things, that you might have 30 good years left. She laughed, but it sounded sad. I'm 56 and divorced, and I've spent the last 3 years pretending my husband was just working late. I don't know how to change. Start small. Tell the family the truth about Dad. Veronica will make it all about her somehow. Let her. You can't control what she does, but you can control whether you keep hiding. More silence. Then, when did you get so wise? I had a really good grandfather, even if he was a coward about some things. That made her laugh for real. He really was, wasn't he? Yeah, but he documented everything so we'd have proof we weren't crazy. That counts for something. What are you going to do about your brother? I watch the waves roll in. I don't know yet. Part of me wants to show him every page of those journals, make him see exactly how bad it's gotten. And the other part remembers he's still my brother, that he wasn't always like this, that maybe Grandpa's letter will actually make him think. Don't hold your breath. I won't, but I can give him a chance. Just one. We talked for another hour, about nothing and everything. She told me about her job at the hospital, how she'd been picking up extra shifts to avoid going home to an empty house. I told her about my students, the ones who were barely holding on, how exhausted I was from trying to save everyone. You sound like you need more than 2 weeks at the beach house, she said. I'm thinking about taking a leave of absence. Maybe the whole fall semester. Can you afford that? Grandpa left me $400,000 in investments. I think I can manage. She was quiet. He really did love you. I know. I just wish he'd learned to love himself enough to be honest. We're all learning that, she said. Some of us slower than others. After we hung up, I made coffee and sat on the porch with the journals. Read them cover to cover, every entry, every observation. My grandfather had been meticulous. He'd documented not just what happened, but why he thought it mattered. The patterns he saw forming, the ways small compromises led to larger betrayals. There was an entry from 2 years ago that hit especially hard. November 12th, Thanksgiving dinner. Watched my granddaughter help set the table, while Veronica sat on the couch directing everyone like a general. Later, my granddaughter brought out pie and Veronica announced she'd brought gluten-free dessert instead. Hadn't told anyone because she knew people would complain. My granddaughter had spent all morning baking that pie from scratch. She didn't say anything, just smiled and wrapped up the pie to take home. That's when I knew I had to leave her everything. She needs to learn she doesn't have to keep swallowing her disappointment, that her effort matters, that she deserves to take up space. I remembered that Thanksgiving. I'd spent 3 days perfecting Grandpa's favorite pie recipe. Veronica's gluten-free replacement tasted like cardboard, but everyone ate it and complimented her while my pie sat in the kitchen. I'd driven home that night and cried in my car for 20 minutes, because it wasn't about the pie. It was about the pattern, the way I could pour myself into something and have it dismissed as soon as Veronica decided something else was more important. My phone rang. Eric. I almost didn't answer, but I told myself I'd give him one chance. I've been up all night thinking, he said without preamble, about what Grandpa wrote, about everything. And I want to read the journals. I said no. I know, but I need to see them. I need to understand what he saw that I didn't. I thought about it. Why? Because I've spent the last 6 hours looking at my life, and I don't recognize it anymore. Because my daughters are asleep upstairs, and I realize I don't actually know them. Because Veronica's been rage cleaning the house since our call, and I'm sitting in my car in the driveway because I can't face going back inside. His voice cracked on the last part. What happened after we talked? I asked. I told her what you said, about the journals. She went ballistic, started screaming about how Grandpa was a manipulative old man who poisoned everyone against her, how you've always been jealous of our family, how I'm weak for even listening to you. What did you say? Nothing at first. Then she said she was going to call a lawyer, contest the will, prove Grandpa wasn't in his right mind when he wrote it. Said we deserved that house more than you because we had children to provide for. Jesus. And I just snapped. Told her she couldn't contest the will because Grandpa had documented everything, that he'd been keeping records for 5 years specifically because he knew she'd pull something like this, that maybe if she'd spent less time manipulating people and more time being a decent human being, he might have left us something. I couldn't breathe. You said that? I said a lot more than that. About how she treats my family, how she monopolizes every gathering, how she's isolated me from everyone I used to care about how I can't remember the last time I made a decision without clearing it with her first. How did she react? She threw a vase at my head, an expensive one. Then she locked herself in our bedroom and hasn't come out. Eric, I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me. I did this to myself. I let it happen for 15 years. But I need to see what Grandpa saw. I need to understand how bad it got. I looked at the journals stacked on the porch table. 5 years of observations. Hundreds of pages documenting the slow erosion of my brother's autonomy. Okay, I said finally, but not yet. I need to deal with the Patricia situation first. After that, we'll talk. Who's Patricia? Grandpa's other secret. The one even Mom didn't know about until 3 months before he died. There's more? There's always more. That's what happens when people keep secrets for 40 years. He was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry. For everything. For letting Veronica treat you like that. For not standing up for you. Don't apologize yet. I interrupted. Words are easy. I need to see if you actually change anything. Fair enough. After we hung up, I Googled Patricia Wells Portland Bakery. Found it immediately. Patty's Place, a small bakery in the Pearl District. The website showed a cheerful woman in her mid-60s, silver hair in a bun, covered in flour. Her smile looked genuine. I called the number listed. A woman answered on the third ring. Patty's Place, this is Patricia. My breath caught. Hi. This is going to sound strange, but my name is Claire Morrison. My grandfather was Richard Morrison. He passed away last year. Silence. Complete silence. Patricia? I'm here. Her voice had changed, gotten smaller. How did you find me? He left letters in his beach house. One of them was addressed to you. Oh God. I'm sorry to call out of the blue like this, but I think you should have the letter. I can mail it, or if you'd rather I just read it over the phone. Don't read it, she said quickly. Please don't. I can't hear it secondhand. Okay, I'll mail it then. No, wait. She was quiet for a long moment. I could hear her breathing, could almost feel her making a decision. Where are you calling from? The beach house. The one in Seabrook. I know where it is. I haven't been there in 43 years, but I know where it is. Did you want to come here? To read the letter? Another long pause. Yes, I think I do. Would tomorrow be too soon? Tomorrow is perfect. We arranged a time and she hung up. I sat there holding the phone, wondering what I'd just set in motion. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I cleaned the beach house, made up the guest room in case Patricia wanted to stay, drove to town for groceries, kept myself busy so I wouldn't think too hard about what was coming. That night, my mother called again. Eric told me what happened with Veronica. That was fast. He called me at 3 a.m., crying. Said his marriage might be over and he didn't know if he cared. What did you tell him? That marriage counseling exists for a reason. That he needs to figure out what he actually wants before he makes any big decisions. That his daughters need him to be present regardless of what happens with Veronica. Good advice. I've learned a few things in 32 years of a terrible marriage. I should at least be able to pass on some wisdom. I could hear her smile through the phone. I called Patricia. I said, she's coming tomorrow to read the letter. Mom's breath caught. You did? Grandpa wanted her to have it. Seemed like the right thing to do. What if she's angry? What if she wants nothing to do with us? Then that's her choice. But at least she'll know the truth. I'm proud of you, Mom said softly. Your grandfather was right about you. You're the only one brave enough to handle this. I'm not brave. I'm just tired of secrets. Sometimes that's the same thing. Patricia arrived at 10 a.m. the next morning. She drove up in an old Subaru covered in bakery bumper stickers. And for a moment, I saw the young woman from that photograph I'd found as a child. The same dark curly hair, now silver. The same bright eyes. The same way of holding herself like she was ready for anything. She got out of the car slowly, looking at the beach house like it might disappear. It looks different, she said when I met her at the door. Richard's father owned it back then. It was falling apart even in the 70s. I renovated it last year, spent 6 months fixing every room. She smiled. He always said this place had good bones. Guess he was right. I led her inside, made coffee, and we sat at the kitchen table. The letter sat between us. I should tell you, I started. I read it. I'm sorry, I know that's private, but I needed to know what was in there before I contacted you. What did it say? I pushed the envelope toward her. I think you should read it yourself. She opened it with shaking hands. Read silently, her face unreadable. When she finished, she folded it carefully and set it back on the table. 43 years, she said quietly. He kept this secret for 43 years. Did you know he'd passed away? I saw the obituary, considered going to the funeral, then decided it would cause more harm than good. I didn't want to hurt his family. His family spent decades lying to each other. I don't think you showing up would have made it worse. She laughed, but it sounded sad. You sound like him. That same blunt honesty. He used to do that. Say exactly what he thought without sugarcoating it. What happened after the adoption? She looked out the window at the ocean. I moved to Portland, started over. Told myself it was better this way, that the baby deserved parents who could give her a real family. I opened the bakery 15 years later, poured everything into making it successful. Never married because no one could measure up to the memory of Richard Morrison, even though I knew he was a coward who'd abandoned me. Did you ever try to find her? The baby? Every day for 30 years. Then I stopped. Decided it was selfish to disrupt her life just because I wanted closure. Grandpa included the adoption information in the letter. She nodded. Mercy Children's Services. David and Helen Morrison. I know, I've known for 20 years. Found them through a private investigator, same as Richard apparently did. The baby's name is Rachel. She's a veterinarian in Seattle. She has 2 kids and a husband who teaches high school English. She looks happy in her Facebook photos. You've been watching her online? Is that creepy? It's human. Patricia smiled. She looks like Richard. Same nose, same smile. Every time I see her photos, I think about reaching out. Then I remember I have no right to disrupt her life. What if she wants to know you? What if she doesn't? What if I'm just the woman who gave her up? What if she hates me? What if she's been wondering about you her whole life? Patricia looked at me directly for the first time. Is that what you'd want? If you were adopted? I thought about it. I'd want the choice. I'd want to know the truth so I could decide for myself. You really are like him. We sat in silence for a while, drinking coffee, watching the waves. I'm sorry he was a coward, I said finally. I'm sorry he didn't fight for you. He was 22 and scared of disappointing his father. I understand it better now than I did then. That doesn't make it okay. No, but it makes it human. She picked up the letter again, ran her fingers over the handwriting. He said he loved me. After 43 years, he finally said it. He did love you. I can tell from how he wrote about you in his journals. He kept journals? 5 years worth. Documenting everything. That's how I found your letter. He hid everything in the crawl space. Can I see them? The parts about me? I hesitated. They're mostly about my family, about the patterns he saw. but there are a few entries about you. I'd like to read them, if you don't mind. I brought out the journals and showed her the relevant entries. She read slowly, tears running down her face. April 23rd. Thompson thinks I should tell them before I die. Give everyone a chance to process. But I've kept this secret for 4 decades. What's a few more months? My granddaughter will handle it better than my son anyway. She has my sense of justice. He was right, Patricia said. You are handling it. I'm trying, but it's a lot. What are you going to do about your brother? He asked about the journals. I told her everything during coffee. The beach house fight, Veronica's manipulation, Eric's late-night epiphany. I'm going to let him read them, eventually. Once I figure out the Patricia situation. I'm not a situation. You know what I mean, she smiled. I do, and I appreciate you caring enough to find me. She looked back at the journal. Richard was documenting this for you. He wanted you to know you weren't imagining things. Yeah, that's love too, in its own way. Not romantic love, but the kind that sees you clearly and wants better for you. I wish he'd been brave enough to be honest while he was alive. Me too. But we don't get to choose how people love us, only whether we accept it. We talked for hours. About Grandpa, about her bakery, about the family she'd built for herself through friends and employees, about Rachel, the daughter she'd never met but watched from a distance. I think I'm going to write to her, Patricia said finally. Not show up or call, just a letter. Let her decide if she wants contact. That seems fair. Would you help me? I don't know what to say. I'm a middle school counselor, not a therapist. You found me. You handled all this with grace. I trust you. So we spent the rest of the afternoon drafting a letter to Rachel Morrison. Patricia's words, my editing. It took 11 tries before we got it right. Dear Rachel, my name is Patricia Wells. I'm writing to you because 43 years ago, I made an impossible choice, and I've thought about you every single day since. I was your birth mother. I gave you up for adoption through Mercy Children's Services in 1981. Your father was a man named Richard Morrison who passed away last year. We were both young and scared and convinced we were doing the right thing. I'm not writing to disrupt your life or to ask for anything. I'm writing because Richard's granddaughter recently found a letter he wrote to me before he died. In it, he gave me the information needed to find you. He said if I wanted to, I could. I've known where you were for 20 years. I've watched from a distance, seen your success, your family, the beautiful life you've built. I've been so proud of you, even though I have no right to be. I'm writing now because I realized I was being selfish by not giving you the choice. Maybe you've wondered about me. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you're angry I gave you up. Maybe you're grateful. I don't know, but you deserve to know you were loved. That giving you up was the hardest thing I've ever done. That there hasn't been a birthday or holiday or ordinary Tuesday when I didn't think about you. I'm enclosing my contact information. If you want to meet, I'd love that. If you want nothing to do with me, I understand completely. If you need time to process this, take all the time you need. Whatever you decide, I hope you know you're wanted. Patricia. She sealed the envelope with shaking hands. What if she doesn't respond? Then at least you tried. That's more than Grandpa did. He tried, he just ran out of time. We all run out of time eventually. The question is what we do with the time we have. Patricia looked at me. You're wise for 29. I'm 31, but thank you. Still young enough to fix things before they break. Don't waste that. She left an hour later, promising to let me know if Rachel responded. I watched her drive away, then went back inside to call my mother. How did it go? Mom asked. Good, sad, complicated. She's going to write to Rachel, the daughter, Grandpa's daughter, our aunt, your half-sister. That's going to take some getting used to. Everything about this is going to take getting used to. What's next? I looked at the stack of journals. I'm going to let Eric read these. Then we're going to figure out what kind of family we want to be. What if he doesn't change? Then at least I gave him the chance. That's all I can do. Eric arrived the next day. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in a week. He probably hadn't. Veronica filed for divorce, he said when I opened the door. Served me papers yesterday. She's asking for full custody and half my assets. I'm sorry, don't be. I think I've been hoping for this for years. I made coffee and we sat on the porch. I gave him the journals and watched him read. His face went through every emotion. Shame, anger, recognition, grief. He documented everything, Eric said finally. Everything. The $15,000 loan, the birthday party, the dinner where I interrupted you 17 times, and a lot more. He kept reading, page after page, seeing himself through our grandfather's eyes, seeing what he'd become. When he finally finished, the sun was setting. I don't recognize this person, he whispered. This man who abandoned his mother, who let his wife bully his sister, who forgot his own daughters existed unless Veronica told him what to do with them. You can change, can I? After 15 years of this, Patricia gave up a daughter and spent 43 years regretting it. Grandpa kept secrets until the day he died. Mom hid her divorce for 3 years. We're all messed up, Eric. The question is whether you're willing to do the work to fix it. He looked at me. I want my daughters to know me. The real me, not the version Veronica created. Then fight for custody. Go to therapy. Figure out who you actually are underneath all this. Will you help me? I'll help you do the work, but I won't do it for you. That's fair. We sat there watching the sunset, and for the first time in 15 years, I felt like I had my brother back. The next 3 months were chaos. Eric fought Veronica for custody. My mother filed for divorce officially and started going to therapy. Patricia sent her letter to Rachel and waited for a response. And I stayed at the beach house, taking a leave of absence from work, learning how to rest. Patricia called in October. She wrote back, she said, her voice shaking. Rachel wrote back. What did she say? She wants to meet. This weekend. She's driving down from Seattle with her family. That's wonderful. I'm terrified. Of course you are. But you'll regret it if you don't go. Will you come with me? For moral support? Really? You started all this. Seems only fair you see it through. So that Saturday, I drove to Patricia's bakery. Rachel was already there when I arrived, standing outside with her husband and 2 kids. She looked exactly like the photo from Grandpa's law books. Same dark hair, same bright smile. I watched through the window as Patricia opened the door, watched them stare at each other. watched Rachel's face crumple as she said something, watched Patricia pull her into a hug. They stayed like that for a long time. I left them alone, drove to my mother's house instead. She was packing up the home she'd shared with my father, getting ready to move into something smaller. How did it go? She asked. They met. They hugged. I think it's going to be okay. Good. That's good. I helped her pack for a while. We found old photo albums, pictures of family dinners where everyone looked happy but nobody was, pictures of holidays where Veronica monopolized every frame, pictures of Grandpa watching it all, documenting it in his mind. Do you think he'd be proud of us? Mom asked, for finally dealing with all this. I think he'd be relieved we're not keeping secrets anymore. Even the hard ones? Especially the hard ones. Eric called that night. I got joint custody. Veronica's furious, but the judge saw the pattern. All her manipulation, all her controlling behavior. He gave me every other week with the girls. That's great. They're coming this weekend. I have no idea what to do with them. Start by asking them what they like. Actually listening to the answer. Building from there. That simple? That simple. That hard. Will you come to dinner? Help me break the ice? No. You need to do this yourself. Fair enough. But Eric? Yeah? I'm proud of you. For fighting for them. For choosing different. His voice cracked. Thanks. That means a lot. Patricia called the next week. Rachel wants to meet the rest of the family. She wants to know where she came from. Are you ready for that? No, but I'm doing it anyway. So we planned a dinner. Me, Mom, Eric, his daughters, Patricia, and Rachel with her family. The beach house seemed like the right place. Where it all started. Where Grandpa had loved and lost and documented everything. I spent 2 days cleaning, cooking, preparing, making Grandpa's favorite dishes from recipes Mom provided, setting the table for 12. They arrived at 6 p.m. on a Saturday. Rachel and Patricia came together, already comfortable with each other after weeks of phone calls. Eric brought his daughters, who looked nervous but curious. Mom brought wine and homemade bread. We sat around the table, this strange combination of people brought together by secrets and truth. I want to propose a toast, Mom said, standing up. To my father, Richard Morrison. He was a coward and a liar, and he kept secrets that hurt people. But he also documented everything so we'd have proof we weren't crazy. So we'd have the courage to choose different. To Grandpa, I added, who loved imperfectly but left us a roadmap. We drank to that. Then Rachel stood. I want to thank you all for telling me the truth, for letting me be part of this family even though I wasn't raised in it, for making room. Patricia was crying. I want to thank Claire for finding me, for giving me the chance I'd convinced myself I didn't deserve. Eric cleared his throat. I want to apologize. To my mother for abandoning her. To my sister for enabling Veronica's behavior. To my daughters for not seeing them clearly. I'm going to do better. His oldest daughter, 12 years old, spoke up. Can I say something? Of course, Eric said. Grandpa left journals? He did. Can I read them someday? I want to know what he saw. I looked at Eric, who nodded. When you're older, I said. When you're ready to understand complicated family dynamics. I'm ready now. Mom's been teaching me about manipulation tactics in therapy. Everyone went quiet. She has? Eric asked. Yeah. She says I need to recognize patterns so I don't repeat them. She says therapy is where we break generational trauma. I laughed. I couldn't help it. This 12-year-old had more insight than most adults I knew. Then yes, I said. You can read them. We'll go through them together. We ate dinner, told stories. Rachel shared photos of her adoptive parents, both passed now, who'd given her a good life. Patricia talked about her bakery, how she'd built something from nothing after losing everything. Mom talked about her divorce, how she'd stayed silent for years before finally finding her voice. Eric talked about therapy, about learning to make decisions without Veronica's input, about building relationships with his daughters. And I talked about the beach house, about renovating it alone, about finding the journals, about learning that sanctuary matters. What are you going to do with this place? Rachel asked. Keep it, use it. Maybe rent it to family members who need space to think. That's what Grandpa would want, Mom said. A place where people can be honest. We stayed up late, talking and laughing. The girls fell asleep on the couch. Patricia and Rachel sat close together, years of distance slowly closing. Eric and Mom had a long conversation about their childhoods, patterns they'd never noticed before. Around midnight, everyone headed home or to guest rooms. I sat on the porch alone, listening to the waves. My phone buzzed. A text from Veronica. You destroyed my family. I stared at it for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. She was wrong. I hadn't destroyed anything. I'd just stopped enabling destruction. There's a difference. The next morning, I woke to find Mom making coffee in the kitchen. Couldn't sleep? I asked. Too much to think about. Good things, mostly. We sat on the porch together, watching sunrise. I've decided something, Mom said. I'm going to sell the house. Move somewhere smaller. Start over. Where? Maybe Portland. Patricia offered me a job at the bakery. Said she could use someone good with numbers. You're going to work in a bakery? Why not? I've spent 30 years doing what everyone expected. Time to try what I actually want. What about Eric? He's figuring out his own path. He doesn't need me hovering. And me? She smiled. You have this place, your sanctuary. You'll be fine. I'll miss you. I'm 3 hours away. You can visit anytime. We sat in comfortable silence, drinking coffee, watching the ocean change colors. Did Grandpa know it would turn out like this? I asked. When he hid those journals? I think he hoped, but I don't think he knew. We could have read them and changed nothing. But we didn't. No, we didn't. Because you were brave enough to tell the truth. I wasn't brave. I was just tired of lying. Sometimes that's the same thing. Patricia called later that day. Rachel invited me to Thanksgiving, at her house, with her whole family. That's wonderful. I'm terrified. You keep saying that. I keep being terrified, but I keep doing the things anyway. That's called courage, or stupidity. Same thing, really. She laughed. Will you come to Thanksgiving? Rachel specifically asked for you. Said you're part of this too. I'm not family. You found the letters. You brought us together. That makes you family. So I went to Thanksgiving in Seattle. Met Rachel's husband, her kids, her in-laws. Watched Patricia fit seamlessly into this life she might have had if Grandpa hadn't been a coward. Eric came too, with his daughters. Mom drove up from Portland, where she'd already started working at the bakery. We were a strange collection of people, broken and rebuilding, but we were there. Rachel gave a toast before dinner. To absent family members who left us the tools to heal. To new family members who had the courage to reach out. To all of us, figuring out how to love each other honestly. We drank to that. After dinner, Rachel pulled me aside. I want to show you something. She led me to her office, pulled out a photo album. These are pictures of my adoptive parents, the people who raised me. I looked at them, an ordinary couple smiling at the camera, happy. They were good people, Rachel said. I had a good childhood. I don't want anyone thinking I was abandoned or unloved. I don't think that. Patricia does. She carries so much guilt. She loved you enough to let you go. That takes strength. Rachel smiled. That's what I tell her, but I thought you should know. This story doesn't have a villain, just people making impossible choices. Grandpa was still a coward. Maybe, but he left you those journals. He documented everything so you'd have proof. That's something. It's not enough. No, but it's what we have, and we get to decide what to do with it. I flew home the next day, back to the beach house, to my sanctuary. Found a message on my phone from my old principal. They wanted to know if I was coming back after my leave. I thought about it for a long time, about my students who needed me, about the burnout that had driven me here, about what I actually wanted. I called him back. I'm not coming back, not to that job, but I'm interested in starting a program for at-risk students. Something smaller, more focused, something where I can actually make a difference. That would require funding. I have funding. Grandpa left me money. I want to use it for this. We talked for an hour, sketching out possibilities. A mentorship program, small group counseling, a safe space for kids who needed it. By Christmas, I had a plan. By February, I had a location, a small office near the beach where students could come after school, where we could talk honestly about family dynamics, mental health, boundary setting, all the things I'd learned from Grandpa's journals. Eric helped me set it up. He'd started his own business, left the corporate job that had been killing him. He and his daughters came by every weekend, painting walls and building furniture. This is good, he said one afternoon, building something new instead of maintaining something broken. That's all we can do. Is it enough? It has to be. Mom visited from Portland once a month. She looked different now, lighter somehow, like she'd been carrying a weight for 30 years, and finally set it down. Patricia came with her sometimes, bringing fresh bread from the bakery. She and Rachel talked every week now, building the relationship they'd missed. Veronica sent one more text in March. The girls missed their cousins. I showed it to Eric. What do you think? I think she's trying to manipulate through the kids again, probably, but they do miss each other. That's real. So what do? Supervised visits at neutral locations with clear boundaries. And if she starts her usual patterns, we leave. You've learned a lot in therapy. I've had good teachers. We started doing monthly cousin dinners at the beach house. Eric's daughters and Veronica's daughters, supervised by Eric and me. Veronica wasn't invited. She raged about it online, called us alienators, said we were poisoning her children, but the girls just wanted to see each other. And slowly they started talking honestly about their mom, about the manipulation, about learning to recognize patterns. My therapist says mom has narcissistic personality disorder. Eric's oldest told me one day. She says that's why mom makes everything about her. What do you think? I think labels help sometimes. They explain why someone acts the way they do, but they don't excuse it. That's very wise. I read Grandpa's journals, the parts about mom. He saw it all, didn't he? He did. I'm glad he wrote it down. It makes me feel less crazy. That's why he did it. So we'd have proof. She looked at me seriously. When I grow up, I'm going to be a therapist. I'm going to help people like us. People who grew up with parents like mom. I think you'll be great at that. I learned from the best. By summer, the program was running. 20 students all dealing with family trauma. We met 3 times a week, talked about boundaries and self-worth and breaking cycles. I used Grandpa's journals as teaching tools, showed them how patterns escalate, how manipulation works, how documenting everything gives you clarity. My dad does this, one student said, reading an entry about Veronica manufacturing crises. He always has an emergency right when mom tries to leave. That's called a control tactic, I explained. It's designed to keep your mom off balance. Can I show her this? She thinks she's crazy. You can show her, but she has to be ready to see it. How do I know if she's ready? You can't. All you can do is offer the truth and let her decide what to do with it. The same thing Patricia had done with Rachel. The same thing Grandpa had done with his letters. All we can do is tell the truth. The rest is up to other people. In August, exactly 1 year after the beach house fight, Eric and I took his daughters on a vacation. Just the 4 of us. No drama, no manipulation. We spent a week swimming and cooking and talking, building the relationship that should have existed all along. I'm sorry I wasn't there before, Eric told them one night. I let mom control everything. I stopped seeing you clearly. We know, his oldest said, but you're here now. That's what matters. Is it enough? It's a start. We stayed up late, talking about everything. Their hopes, their fears, their plans. Eric actually listened, asked follow-up questions, didn't check his phone once. This is what family should be, his youngest said. Just talking, no drama. Grandpa would be proud, I said. Do you think he knew? The oldest asked. That his journals would change everything? I think he hoped, but I don't think he knew how brave you'd all be. We learned from you, she said. You changed the locks. You started everything. I just stopped enabling bad behavior. That's everything. Mom and Patricia visited that week, brought Rachel and her family. We had a big dinner at the beach house, all of us together. 1 year ago, I said, raising my glass, I changed the locks on this house and started a war. I thought I was just setting boundaries. Turns out I was starting a revolution. To revolutions, Eric said. To truth, Mom added. To family, Patricia said, looking at Rachel. The kind we choose. We drank to all of it. Later, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat on the porch alone, thought about Grandpa, documenting everything in his journals, about how his cowardice in some areas led to courage in others, about how we're all complicated, all flawed, all trying to love the best we can. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Hi, my name is David Morrison. I'm Patricia's son, Rachel's half-brother. She told me what happened. About the journals. About our grandfather. I'd like to meet you. I stared at the message for a long time. Another secret. Another person shaped by Grandpa's choices. I could ignore it, pretend I never saw it, keep my life simple, or I could tell the truth. Let him in. See where it leads. I thought about what Patricia had said. About being terrified but doing the thing anyway. I texted back. When? His response came immediately. Thanksgiving. Rachel's hosting again. She said you'd probably come. I'll be there. Because that's what we do now. We tell the truth. We make room. We face the complicated, messy reality of family and choose to show up anyway. It's not what Grandpa did, but it's what he wanted for us. And maybe that's enough. The beach house sits 3 hours north, renovated and loved. My sanctuary. The place where I learned to say no. The place where secrets came to light. I go there every month, sometimes alone, sometimes with family. We've started a tradition. On Grandpa's birthday, we all gather there, read entries from his journals, talk about what we've learned, how we've changed. Eric brings his daughters. They're thriving now, confident in who they are. The oldest is applying to colleges, wants to study psychology. The youngest writes poetry about family dynamics, raw and honest. Mom brings Patricia, and Patricia brings Rachel. They're inseparable now, making up for lost time. Rachel's teaching Patricia to surf. Patricia's teaching Rachel to bake. And I bring my students sometimes. The ones who need to see that family can heal, that patterns can break, that documentation matters. Why did your grandfather write everything down, they ask. Because he knew we'd need proof. He knew someday we'd be ready to face the truth. What if we're not ready? Then you wait. But you keep the journal safe. You document what you see. And when the time comes, you'll have what you need. They understand. These kids who grow up in chaos, who question their own reality, who need someone to say, you're not crazy. This is real. Here's the proof. Grandpa's greatest gift wasn't the beach house or the money. It was the journals, the documentation, the proof that our pain was valid, that we deserved better, that we could choose different. I still have the 3 letters in a safe deposit box. Sometimes I take them out and reread them. Reminders of who we were, who we are, who we're becoming. Veronica still sends occasional messages, threats, manipulations, attempts to regain control. I delete them without reading. Eric does the same. She tried to sue for more custody last month. The judge read Eric's documentation of her behavior patterns, denied her request. She started therapy according to the girls. Whether it'll help remains to be seen. But it's not my problem anymore. I've learned to protect my peace, to change the locks when necessary, to tell the truth even when it's hard, to document everything, to make room for complicated people trying to do better, to forgive without forgetting, to hold people accountable while staying open to change, to build sanctuary. Last week, David Morrison came to visit. Patricia's son, Grandpa's grandson, raised separately, shaped by the same man's choices. We sat on the porch and I told him everything, about the journals, the letters, the family we'd been and the family we were becoming. I'm angry at him, David said, for abandoning my mother, for being too cowardly to claim me. That's fair. But I'm also grateful, because his cowardice led to this. To all of us finding each other. To truth. Complicated, isn't it? Everything is. We sat there watching the sunset. 2 grandchildren shaped by one man's choices. One raised in the family, one outside it. Both trying to make sense of the legacy. What do we do now? David asked. We keep showing up. We keep telling the truth. We keep making room. Is that enough? It has to be. Because in the end, that's all we can do. Show up honestly. Tell the truth. Make room for messy, complicated reality. Break the patterns that break us. Build the families we deserve. Choose different. I think about Grandpa sometimes. Wonder what he'd make of all this. The family dinners, the honest conversations, the boundaries we've built. I think he'd be relieved, maybe even proud. But mostly, I think he'd be grateful that we had the courage he didn't, that we finished what he started, that we changed the locks, that we told the truth, that we chose different. The beach house stands strong, renovated and loved. My sanctuary, our sanctuary, the place where secrets came to light and families were reborn. I'm keeping it forever, for the next generation. For the nieces who'll need space to think, for the children David might have someday, for anyone in our family who needs proof that healing is possible. Because that's what Grandpa wanted. Not perfection, not easy answers, just proof, documentation, truth, and the courage to face it. I'm 32 now, single, building a program that matters, surrounded by chosen family and biological family all mixed together. It's messy and complicated and honest. It's nothing like what I imagined my life would be. It's better, because I learned to say no, to change the locks, to tell the truth. I learned that family isn't about obligation or guilt or keeping the peace. It's about showing up honestly, making room, choosing each other again and again, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Grandpa's journals sit in my office now. I've digitized them, created backups, ensured they'll survive. They're teaching tools, proof, documentation, evidence that patterns can be broken, that truth matters, that sanctuary is possible. Every August, on the anniversary of changing those locks, I take a day alone at the beach house, sit on the porch, read the journals, remember who I was before I learned to say no. And I'm grateful. For the beach house, for the journals, for Grandpa's cowardice that became courage, for the family I've built from the ashes of the one I inherited, for the truth that set us all free. This year, I added my own entry to the journals, a new volume, my own documentation. August 15th, 1 year since everything changed. The family came together today. All of us. Blood relatives and chosen family. People who learned to tell the truth. Grandpa, I hope you can see this somehow. See what your journal started. See the healing that came from your honesty, even if it came too late. We're not perfect. We're still figuring it out, but we're doing it together. Honestly, that's what you wanted, right? For us to face reality instead of hiding from it. Mission accomplished. We miss you. We're angry at you. We're grateful for you. We're human, just like you were. And we're choosing different. I closed the journal and set it on the shelf next to Grandpa's volumes. Started a new tradition. Each year, we'll add to it. Document our healing. Prove to future generations that change is possible. That patterns can break. That truth matters. That sanctuary exists. That family, real family, is worth fighting for. My phone buzzed. Eric, girls want to know if we can come up next weekend. They're feeling stressed about school starting. Of course. Doors always open. Thanks. For everything. For not giving up on me. Thanks for showing up. For doing the work. I sat on the porch as the sun set, thinking about the year that had passed. The locks I'd changed. The truth I'd told. The family I'd reclaimed. It started with me saying no. With refusing to give up my sanctuary. With changing the locks on my own house. Such a small thing. Such a huge thing. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is protect your own peace. Set a boundary. Say no. Even when everyone tells you you're wrong. Even when you're called selfish. Even when you're breaking the family apart. Sometimes breaking things apart is the only way to rebuild them correctly. Sometimes destruction is necessary for creation. Sometimes you have to change the locks to open new doors. I learned that from Grandpa, from his journals, from his cowardice that became courage, his secrets that became truth. I learned that documentation matters, that proof is powerful, that telling the truth is terrifying and necessary and worth it. I learned that family isn't about keeping the peace. It's about telling the truth and seeing if people choose to stay. The good ones always do. The beach house sits quiet now, waiting for the next gathering, the next conversation, the next truth. My sanctuary. Our sanctuary. The place where everything changed, where I learned to say no, where I changed the locks, where I chose different, and where someday I'll teach the next generation to do the same, because that's the real inheritance. Not money or property or family names, but courage, documentation, truth, the knowledge that you can break patterns, that you can choose different, that you deserve sanctuary. That's what Grandpa left me, what I'm passing forward. That's what it means to change the locks, to tell the truth, to choose different, to build family from honesty instead of obligation, to create sanctuary from chaos, to heal. I'm ready for whatever comes next, for David's integration into our family, for more secrets that might surface, for the ongoing work of building something real, because I have proof now, documentation, journals full of truth, and a beach house with new locks, a sanctuary that's mine, a family that's chosen, a life that's honest. It's enough. It's more than enough. It's everything.